So maybe you're just like me and you like to use the DJI Mic 2 on a daily basis, or maybe this is your main audio source for capturing on-the-go content, or maybe you just got yourself a brand new transmitter or the full bundle. If so, DJI just released a brand new firmware update version 04.05.01.11, which is supposed to optimize the equalizer for a brighter and more clear sound. So if you're familiar with the Mic 2, you might know that out of the box it has been a little bit too muffled, so you had to tweak this in post in order to make it sound good, which I'm completely fine with. But for someone that wants crisp audio out of the box, this has been an issue for a very long time, and the reason you might have stopped using the Mic 2 or even returned it. So in today's video, I want to share the differences between the old and the new firmware update and the actual improvements by connecting the Mic 2 wirelessly to the Action 4, the Pocket 3, and using the standalone recorder with its built-in internal storage, just to give you a pinpoint of how it sounds versus the old one and if there is any differences between the different sources. So what you're hearing now is the audio coming from the DJI Mic 2 connected wirelessly to the DJI Action 4, and 32-bit float is enabled, low cut is off, and this is the latest firmware. So it should be less muffled, my voice should be clearer than the previous firmware, but we're going to test that in a sec. The video is recorded in 4K 30 FPS, and I am using the normal 10-bit color profile this time, and the lens is set to ultra wide. Now let's do a stop here so we can change over to the other microphone here, which has the older firmware, so we can hear if there is any difference when it comes to the equalizer and how muffled the audio is compared to the new one. So I now changed microphones, and we're now recording with another DJI Mic 2, which has the old firmware, and my voice should be more muffled than it was with the previous microphone we tested, which had the new firmware update. The microphone is still connected wirelessly to the Action 4, and the Action 4 is still recording 4K 30 FPS with the ultra-wide field of view in the normal 10-bit color profile. So how does the old firmware compare to the new one? Is there any differences? Can you hear the differences? Let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna do another stop here soon, and we're gonna change it over to the Pocket 3 and see if that sounds better or worse when the Mic 2 is connected. And then of course we're gonna do some internal testing with the built-in storage that we have on these DJI Mic 2 units. So we now change over to the Pocket 3, recording 4K 30 FPS, color profile set to normal 10-bit, and we are using the DJI Mic 2 with the old firmware. So my audio should be a little bit more muffled compared to the new one, which we're going to test in a sec, but the settings on the Mic 2 now are still the same. So we have 32-bit float on, low cut is off, and that's it. So this is the audio coming from the old firmware. Now let's change over to the other Mic 2, which has the new firmware updates, and let's see if that sounds any better, any different than the old one. So I now change over to the other microphone, which has the latest firmware update. Is there any differences in my voice? Is my voice clearer because of the new optimized equalizer, or is it the same as before? I also know that I could connect both of the microphones directly to the Pocket 3, but I wanted to do two separate videos just to keep things a little bit more organized. The settings are still the same. 32-bit float is on, low cut is off, and this is the audio that you get with the latest firmware. Pocket 3 still recording 4K 30 FPS. Still an amazing device, and something I highly recommend that you look into if you're looking to get the perfect
all-around high-quality cinematic vlogging travel camera, something like that. Now let's head on the bike again. Let's do some internal recording with these two microphones to see if there is any improvement, any differences, or how the internal audio sounds when it's saved directly to the Mic 2. So I now changed over to the internal recording on the Mic 2, and to be honest, there shouldn't be any differences between the internal recording and when it's plugged into a camera, but I just wanted to test it out to let you guys know if there is any differences or not. So what I really like is that it doesn't matter how many cameras I record with, because this records internally. So now I'm recording with the Action 4 and the X4 here, which means that in post now I can just overlay these videos randomly as I want, and I still maintain the same crisp audio source, which is coming from the internal recording of the Mic 2. But now internal recording with the Mic 2 latest firmware update. Let's change it over to the next one, which is the old firmware update, and see if there is any differences between the internal recording. So I now change over to the DJI Mic 2, which has the old firmware. How does this sound compared to the latest firmware? Is there any differences? When it comes to internal recording, I still think the quality is going to be exactly the same as if you were connecting this to the Action 4 or the Pocket 3. But again, what's good about the internal recording on the Mic 2 is that I can use this with the Action 4, which I'm still recording with, and the Insta360 X4, which I'm also recording with, so I can use one of the same audio source for both these cameras. So that completes the test. Is there any differences in audio quality when it comes to the new versus the old firmware update? Let me know in the comments below, and let's head back to the studio.
Now, after reviewing the audio, there's clearly a huge difference between the new and the old firmware update, especially when you do motovlogs. What I found interesting though is that the audio seems to sound a little bit better with the internal recording compared to when I connected it wirelessly to the Action 4, even though my voice and the placement were the exact same. Compared to the old firmware, it's still much better than expected. But I think the test speaks for itself, so I'm gonna keep this video short. However, if you're interested in one of the best on-the-go microphones, which also has 15 hours of internal storage, I'll leave a link to the Mic 2 down below. My favorite color is white. Which one is yours? That's everything for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.